Good afternoon. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Pinetop Lakeside Town Council to order. We do have a quorum. I would ask that you make sure your cell phones are silenced, please, so we don't have any interruptions. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vice Mayor.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for this opportunity to gather together today in this council meeting. As we pray, we ask Thee to be with the families of the victims of the Texas floods, and bless them, comfort them. We are grateful for this great country that we live in, and pray Thou would watch over those who serve in our military to protect these freedoms that we enjoy. We're ever so grateful for this beautiful community which we have the blessing to live in, and pray that Thou would watch over this community. We pray for moisture. We're thankful for the moisture Thou hast sent us, and pray that Thou would send more, that we might have monsoon season that would reinvigorate our forests. We're grateful for our first responders, and pray that Thou would watch over and protect them and their families, and grateful for our dedicated employees here at the Town of Pinetop Lakeside, and pray that Thou would watch over and protect them. Now, as we discuss important matters and make decisions, we pray that Thy Spirit will be here with us in this meeting, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Item B on our agenda is call to the public. This is a business meeting of the Town Council. The town values and welcomes public input. Please address the council as a whole and not individual council members. Do not address staff or members of the audience. Council action on items brought up in call to the public is limited by the open meeting law. Council may direct staff to study the matter and reschedule for further consideration at a later date. Items on the agenda are not heard during call to the public, and individuals are limited to 3 minutes. Kenny Kale would like to address us.
Mayor Irwin and Town Council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I would like to recommend that we as a town recognize a special historical event that happened 49 years ago, nearly. The most famous man in the world, named United Nations Ambassador of Peace, a man who stood up to his government for religious beliefs, jailed for 3.5 years, but acquitted by the unanimous decision of the Supreme Court. Gold medal Olympic champion and heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali trained here, and he lived in our community. We should dedicate our Fall Festival event to honor the 50th anniversary of this man's legacy of good. I'd also like to see a committee of stakeholders formed to consider creating a dog park and find additional funding sources to implement a park designed to educate dog owners in many interactive ways, giving the town a chance to initiate a tourism plan that would identify our town as Arizona's dog vacation destination. I believe this will increase revenues for our town. It's inexpensive to create a committee. This is a tough time to be a leader, and there is a common belief in America suggesting that all government is bad or corrupt. Nothing man-made is all good or all bad. It will take courage to stand up for good government, to identify the bad, and find solutions to address our weaknesses. And I'd also like to put a little plug in. I support the efforts to expand pickleball, as it will be a wonderful opportunity to play in the cool summer pines. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kenny. We appreciate your passion. Move on to item C on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. All items listed are considered routine matters and will be acted by one motion of the council. There will be no separate discussion of the items unless a member of the council requests that an item or items be removed for further discussion. Council members, however, may ask questions without removing them from the consent agenda, and they are considered in their normal sequence unless called out of sequence. We've got minutes from 4 of our recent meetings, and before I entertain a motion, I would just like to commend Christy for all the work that she did on these, because you did a great job of capturing the conversations that we had. So thank you very much, Christy. We appreciate that. Are there any questions from the council? I'd entertain a motion. Vice Mayor?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thanks again, Christy. You did a really good job. Item D is business before the council. Public comment will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced by the mayor and explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item before or after council discussion. Questions from council members, however, may be directed to staff or a member of the public through the mayor at any time. Our first item, D1, is discussion, information, and consider legal action approving a professional services agreement with the James Vincent Group, LLC, to provide financial services, including acting in the capacity of finance director for the town of Pinetop Lakeside. Interim Manager Rick Miller will present this one, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. Excited to, first of all, applaud the council and the staff for the hard work that they've done through this very difficult budget session. Well done, a commendable job, and we are here tonight. We looked at 5 separate consulting firms. Your direction given to me when I was initially appointed as interim town manager was to go out and find someone that can assist the town of Pinetop Lakeside with finalizing a tentative budget and then ultimately coming in here and providing financial services to the community. And so that's what we've done. I commend Christy. Before I actually arrived here, she reached out to 5 different agencies or firms that provide this kind of service, received some quotes. I reached out to someone that I know, very experienced in city finance, and based on that, we, under my direction, was allowed to enter into a short-term contract, which I did with the James Vincent Group, to have them come in and immediately help us begin to gather the information and put together the short-term, tentative budget that you'll be looking at later on this evening. There are some, obviously some real advantages to reaching out to a private firm for these services. Financially, it's actually less expensive to the town of Pinetop Lakeside. I think if you'll see in your report under the fiscal section, the town will save about $69,000 a year by utilizing a private contractor rather than hiring someone to come in on a permanent basis after you pay their benefits and all of the other things. This would be a financial savings to the community. I initially was, as I reached out and talked to the James Vincent Group, we had talked with Gabe Buldra, who is one of the principals in the firm. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight because he had prior commitments under this short term. But he said he would send someone that will actually be here on a regular basis. And Sarah's here this evening. She'll introduce herself in a moment. But what we're going to be looking for here now is to have you look at this 12-month contract that they've provided. Our recommendation is that you would approve the 12-month contract with the James Vincent Group. As the interim town manager, my responsibility will be to oversee their performance. My responsibility as interim town manager is to present a budget to you every year. And so I'll be evaluating their performance much like I would do with a regular finance director if we had someone in-house. There'd be a 6-month evaluation and then ultimately a 12-month at the end of the contract, an evaluation to see how they've performed for the town of Pinetop Lakeside. A recommendation this evening would be to have you approve the 12-month contract with the James Vincent Group to provide financial services and fulfill the duties of the finance director. This recommendation is based on the firm's proven performance during the initial engagement that we've had with them over the last 30 days for the short-term contract. It's based on their expertise and the need for continuity and stability in managing the town's financial operations. Your bond counsel, Nick Dodd. I met with him not long ago and asked him about the James Vincent Group, and he's very familiar with them, and said they'd be an excellent choice for the town of Pinetop Lakeside. They really don't have a lot of municipal town experience. They primarily, as you were told previously, that they engage and assist in the public safety arena with fire districts and fire departments throughout the state and other areas. So this is really their first engagement with the town, I believe, but we believe they have the expertise and the talent to assist us in the manner that we need to be helped through this process. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Bill Sims did review the contract and had a few changes that were put in place. They had no problem with those minor changes that he had. So I think we're ready to move forward on this if you are.
Okay, questions from council? Can we have Sarah come up, and if we have questions for Sarah as well? Is that all right with you, Rick?
Yes.
Any questions from the council?
Well, I only had
Go
one.
ahead.
I only had one just in general, and maybe you said that and I didn't quite hear it. But did legal counsel approve this? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I do have a couple of questions, concerns. I know this is a 12-month contract, and it seems to me whenever we do professional services, we typically have a 30-day notification that maybe this isn't working out. So I guess my question is, if we get into this 6 months or something, and we realize this is not really working out, we have a viable candidate to come back in-house that would serve our needs better, I would just like to know what our options are there. I mean, it looks to me like we're pretty ironclad for 12 months.
I think under this contract, the way it's written, we'd be obligated for the 12-month period. We'll have the evaluations. I have other options and people that I can reach out to if we're starting to see some complications or problems. That they could come in and perhaps provide some guidance and assistance. But this contract is for the 12-month period.
And did we negotiate that with them, or is that just what we asked?
That was their contract that they provided to us. Did not negotiate that with them. We felt that they have the expertise to perform the duties of it, but I suppose if you want to, at this point, that is not written into this contract.
Okay. And I just have some questions for Sarah because, and full disclosure, I told you earlier, I am a CPA as well, and I work with a lot of my clients remotely, but it's more on historical data, not on real-time data. So I'm trying to wrap my head around how this is going to work when you're not here to answer questions pretty much on the fly, I guess you might want to say. So if you could kind of help me wrap my head around how that's going to work.
Perfect. Well, Madam Mayor and Town Council, I really appreciate the opportunity to come and join you guys tonight. Really, that is our model, and what we've been doing for 12 plus years is being remote. So really, we're a phone call away, we're an email away, we monitor those. We have a very breadth of employees that can help us, staffed on site or in our group is 10, but we have other opportunities where we can bring other resources in as we get into our busy season or need additional services. One of the things that you get with James Vincent Group is a broad breadth of knowledge and basis, and so if there's something that's coming up with a town that maybe I'm not as familiar with, we have another person available to be able to assist that might have more experience. My experience really comes from the government side. Prior to James Vincent Group, I spent 13 years at Honeywell Aerospace, working directly with Boeing Defense and doing the financial modeling for them, and all the way up to senior manager of that Boeing Defense contract. So I've worked with contracts, I've worked with cost accounting, all of that information. And then I've been with James Vincent Group for about 7 years now. And so we have CPAs on staff. We have, we've talked about Gabe and Ben, the principal and managing partner of James Vincent Group. They have a broad breadth of financial experience as well. So I think that if it's something that I can't answer, it's definitely something that one of us can find. And we are a phone call away. We will be up here as much as possible, typically on a monthly basis. We'll come early. The example is today, I came early and Stacy and I worked on some things that we had some questions on for the April financial packet so we can get that completed and sent out to everyone. So that's just kind of how we've worked. If we need to come up more, we're definitely able to do that as well.
Okay, and all those trips up here are included in your monthly fee?
It's included in the monthly fee.
Okay. One thing that we've had, we have obviously an outside auditor that comes in on an annual basis. And I noticed in the contract we have a fee for you to help prepare for that audit. What exactly does that look like that we haven't kind of been doing ourselves?
So that is another great question, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So really from an audit perspective, we'll prepare the books to make sure that all of the audit adjustments are in before we even get to have our auditors look at it. We work directly with the auditors, so it's really, we're only needing to reach out to the town in this case if there's issues that we maybe don't have access, or if we need special information regarding employment, things like that, then we would reach out. But we really try to manage the audit process from beginning to end on behalf of the town.
Okay, so I know in the past, for example, the auditor takes a sampling of invoices and wants to confirm everything. So you will actually come and pull all of that information.
Yes, that is correct. So we would pull that information. We do, we have some district in our finance side for fire districts. We do have a lot of our districts are on a web-based application to be able to do AP. But for those that aren't, we definitely come up and we'll pull those data points for the auditors. We package it together and we send that off to them.
Okay. And then we've always had, because we've had a small finance department, conversations with the auditor about separation of duties. So, I mean, we have Stacy who does a great job for us, and she pays the bills and does payroll. And then I'm going to assume that you're going to come in and reconcile our bank accounts, just for that third, the separation there.
So we'll work through the segregation of duties issues that we do add an additional layer to the segregation of duties when the auditors have that, so we get entered into those processes. Looking at bandwidth as far as what Stacy has on her plate and what we can do. If that means that we do the bank recs, we do the bank recs. Regardless of whether we do the bank recs or not, we will be reviewing those bank recs and signing off on them. So they will have our signature, whoever's reviewing them from our team, to give that extra layer of comfort that they have been reviewed. They might not have been processed by JVG, but they will have been reviewed.
Okay. I know that's one thing that the auditor kind of talks about. And, in a small organization, it's a challenge to get that.
Absolutely, and I want to caution that adding one additional layer might not solve all of the segregation of duties issues that the auditor might bring forward, but it does add that additional layer.
Okay, and we're kind of your guinea pigs as far as the municipality.
Yes.
How are you going to bring yourself up to speed on the little idiosyncrasies? I mean, what's your planning process there?
So we've already actually started. So we have met with we have a lot of auditing firms that we use for some of our smaller fire districts that are very heavily involved in town. And so we've met with them to kind of get a data dump or a knowledge transfer to help us be able to get up to speed very quickly to be able to support you guys. So we'll just continue that and use our resources that we have and our knowledge that we have with our fire districts to be able to help with that.
Because I know it's very different it's its own little animal.
It's got its own set of statutes and everything, so we're learning that very quickly.
Okay. All right, well, I appreciate your responses. Yes, Rick?
Mayor Irwin, one of the things, maybe for the benefit of the audience, under Exhibit A of the contract, there's the scope of services that they'll provide under this contract. Would you like me to read through those for the benefit of everyone, or no?
I'm sure the public would be interested in hearing exactly what's going to happen here.
Well, basically, for the amount that they'll be charging us for these services, the core services, to offer an added layer of segregation and duties and independent oversight of financial matters. They submit monthly financial reports and budget summaries to ensure ongoing visibility into the town's fiscal condition. They'll present monthly financial reports and analysis to the town council on-site and/or remotely. They'll provide support to internal staff for monthly and strategic financial needs. They'll assist with the preparation and adoption of the town's annual budget, which you'll see that we'll have a final budget coming to you very shortly. That's where the real work begins between now and that time. Schedule the town's annual audit at a convenient time and prepare all files required by the external audit firm. Kind of having some initial conversations with the James Vincent Group and internally here whether or not we want to maybe look at a different auditor potentially. We got to look at the contract we have with our existing one, but there may be a need to look at a new one potentially, so have that conversation and get with the council later to see if that's something you want to do. Provide on-site support during the audit process to ensure timely and accurate completion. Prepare the annual comprehensive financial report in accordance with the GFOA standards for submission to the Government Finance Officers Association. ensure adherence to applicable governmental accounting standards throughout all reporting and financial practices, and ensure all monthly, quarterly, and annual reports are submitted to the appropriate agencies. Their monthly fee is $7,750. Their annual audit to support, in addition to that monthly fee, would be $10,000. So that's the total amount. Again, it is about $69,000 less than what we would have been paying for a full-time finance director.
Okay, those were my concerns. I just wanted to make sure the public knew that we were looking at all these different things here too. I appreciate that.
Christy may want to add.
Yes.
Mayor and council, I did send our finance director job description to the James Vincent Group, and they modeled that exactly off of what the job description is of our finance director.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilor Smith.
I would like to follow up on the mayor's question to you about support and responding to I know you cover what's called strategic information, but we're thinking more daily information that we need answers to right away. And we're used to having somebody right down the hall just answer the question and it gets we're done. Do you have any kind of maximum turnaround time for phone returns on calls that Stacy might have, or anybody else might have, Rick might have, the mayor might have, on our financial daily operations? And what is if you can't answer the question and it goes to someone else, what is the turnaround for an email? Because some of these things we probably need to have answers to right away, and we're used to that. And I don't know how this will work, but if it gets to be a long period of time, it's going to be very frustrating to work that way. And one quick other follow-up question I had, and you can answer those if you want to, but has your firm done financial support for incorporated municipalities?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Smith, so to answer the last question first, if I could, we do not have currently, this would be our first municipality that we would be supporting financially. But however, we are very familiar with the things that are listed here as far as the town's financial audited process of using the annual the annual financial report. I personally have five fire districts in the state of Arizona that all go through that. All of them do, that I support in Arizona, and so we're very familiar with that process. And we're utilizing that knowledge that we have with our resources that we have with our auditors to help with gaining the knowledge base that we need to be able to support the town. So I have full confidence that with the team that we have, that we'd be able to support from a municipality perspective. As far as answering the first question on the timing of responding back to text or emails and telephone calls, honestly, it's something that we're going to say 24 hours or one business day, but that's not one that we want to live by. We would like to be able to return your phone call as soon as possible. We do ask that if it's an urgent request, that it's done through email with an urgent tag on it or something like that, or a phone call. We try to answer that phone call whenever we possibly can. If we can't, you have several people that you'll be able to call, or we will be able to reach out to. If we're in a meeting here with council, if I get a call from one of my clients, I'll be calling Gabe saying, hey, can you please call this person back to make sure that they're okay. So that's ideally, we'll say one business day. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the organization as soon as possible, so we'll do our best to be able to answer faster than that.
Good answer, but we're not sure if that'll work when we really need an answer quickly.
And it's a change, right? It's somebody that you're not walking down to the room next door to be able to get the answer. I hope that Stacy could talk to the fact that her and I have been in contact a lot over the last even 2 weeks. And I hope that she would say that I would be responsive. I've been responsive in that matter as well. So, and that's not something that's going to go away with signing the contract. That's something that we will continue to meet those deadlines.
Mayor, that's an excellent question, and I will say over the last 30 days during the short-term contract, they've been extremely responsive to our calls, emails, and questions. So their track record over the last 30 days has been excellent.
Yes, Councilor Heiser?
I just wanted to take a moment. I've been working with the James Vincent Group now for 14 years, I guess what I would say is it is an adjustment, right? If you have somebody that's just down the hallway, it's a little bit of an adjustment to go. I can't just walk down the hallway and go talk to the person. But I'll also say that what I think we found is that's also a disruption to the person who's doing that job, whatever they're doing at that given moment in time. And so, but I will say anything important that we've had, emails, phone calls, they are returned. If they're not answered right there in the moment, they're returned within the same business day. I would say for us, probably 95+% of the time. So it is a bit of an adjustment, I think, for not having the person sitting in the office, but they are very responsive and have been very good to work with for us. And so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Councilor Phillips?
You said you take care of a few fire districts in the state that are basically your accounts that you're in charge of. Compared to the overall budget size of the town of Pinetop, where are you at as far as those fire districts? Are they bigger budgets than ours, smaller, more vehicles, more staff?
All of the above. Madam Mayor, Council, I have one of my clients that's a fire district in the Valley. It's a $65 million organization with, it's an authority and it has districts that feed into it. So it's actually 4 separate clients that we have to manage, 310 employees that we're managing from a budget perspective, and a numerous amount of vehicles that we're trying to manage. I have also one down south that is probably about a $10 million budget, but then I have anything from, in between those as well.
So in comparison to size, this would be one of your smaller accounts?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other?
Just general question, what do you see is going to be one of our biggest hurdles as we adjust together? And then maybe what have other clients of yours had issues with remote? I mean, just as far as what have been some of the other comments that you've heard from a negative perspective? We're just kind of curious.
Total fair question. So I'll use my example that I just mentioned about the 65, I think it's 65 for this budget year on their budget. That's a very large organization, as you can imagine, with 310 employees. They were very used to having a person down the road that they could walk to their office and get something resolved. And so they have one finance person still. So they went from a team of, I believe there was 5 in the finance department, and they went down to 1, and then we took over everything else. And I have weekly calls with that finance person. We're a team. And I think that that's one thing that we really value, and I hope that Councilmember Heisler can also respond to, that we're part of the team. We don't think of ourselves as a third party. We want to see success in the organization. Any organization that we support, we're part of that team. We're not this third party off in the side. So that's really, it does take some knowledge of, hey, I can't just walk down to get this resolved. I have to pick up the phone. I have to send an email. And so that's just that they're still struggling with that, to be quite honest. And so that's just something that, and it's been a year, but that it's trying to turn that ship a little bit with all those employees to be able to be comfortable.
Go ahead, Councilor Heiser.
I just, from that perspective, I do believe they are part of the team. I've gotten to know Sarah is also the account manager at Timber Mesa. I'm not sure about the other departments up here, but they manage several other fire districts in the area. We get to interact with them on a regular basis. We normally get to see them once a month, though sometimes that goes remote. It's a very professional organization, and I will say that as a director, like in our budgeting process this year, we had some disagreements as we were going through our budgeting process for Timber Mesa. And that's one of the things that I like about them is they hold their ground and they're willing to tell you why. The other thing that I really like about them is you become less reliant on needing to walk down the hallway because they're always educating so that the next time that situation comes up, you know the answer to the question and you don't necessarily have to reach out and find out, or ask.
And I will have to say that I've watched Stacy in the last month, and she's, I think, stepped outside of her comfort zone in a lot of ways and really researched and found the answers. And so I think there's a lot to be said for that. You kind of have to be more independent and research it yourself. And I've watched Stacy do that, doing a great job. So anyway, okay, are there any other questions or comments for Sarah or Rick? I would entertain a motion then. Counselor Smith?
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
Tabor said he would.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the professional services agreement with the James Vincent Group LLC for financial services to include acting as the financial director for the Town of Pinetop Lakeside for a term of 12 months and authorize the interim town manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the agreement.
I second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you answering all my questions. Item D2 on our agenda tonight is discussion and consideration of resolution number 25-1779, designating Gabe Buldra of the James Vincent Group LLC as the chief fiscal officer to file the annual expenditure limitation report with the Arizona Auditor General for fiscal year 6/30/26. Christy?
Hi, good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. State statute requires municipalities to formally designate a chief fiscal officer who is responsible for submitting the town's annual expenditure report yearly. We've brought this to you every year, and this year we are recommending to designate Gabe Buldra. He's one of the principals of the James Vincent Group, and we would recommend him for the fiscal year ending 2026 as our CFO to file that with the Arizona Auditor General.
And that is 2026 for
Fiscal year ending.
the year we're in. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Any questions for Christy? I'd entertain a motion then.
I can do that one.
Counselor Smith?
Yes, I move to approve resolution number 25-1779, designating Gabe Buldra of the James Vincent Group LLC as the chief fiscal officer, CFO, to file the annual expenditure limitation report with the Arizona Auditor General for fiscal year FYE 6/30/26.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Okay, item D3 is a public hearing, discussion, and consideration of resolution number 25-1780, adopting the tentative budget for FY 2025-26 for the Town of Pinetop Lakeside. Sarah?
Am I supposed to do this?
Let me just start maybe.
Of course.
Just wanted to let the Mayor and Council know that this is a very important part of our budget process. As you know, we have a deadline, and she'll talk about that, to submit the tentative budget. This sets the maximum expenditure that the council is authorized to spend. It's the maximum. And the final budget that you'll see in the coming weeks is going to look quite a bit different, and will be in the lower amount as we work through that budget process than what you're going to see this evening. But we'll let Sarah go ahead and share the work that she's done thus far. Also, before she starts, I would like to just introduce a guy that kind of came in and helped me a lot, Gabe Garcia. Gabe Garcia was a finance director in the city of Coolidge, who I had the pleasure of working with for 8 years. He came in and has looked at, in conjunction with the James Vincent Group, some of these numbers, been working with Stacy, helping her through some of the things that she's needed help with, and has actually come up with a lot of excellent ideas as we move forward in this budget, how we can kind of help ourselves improve our fiscal situation. So, Gabe, thank you. I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, again, good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I will echo what interim town manager mentioned. This is to meet the statutory requirements that is set forth by the state of Arizona. to have a budget hearing, as well as an adoption or a tentative adoption by the end of the month. So I will mention that we have not had the time from James Vincent Group's perspective to really look at the historical trends of the organization, to be able to really identify opportunities for improvement in these. This is based off of the budget that was given to us to be able to turn it and put it into the statutory required forms. One thing that we will be doing, and that we actually have already started, is really building out our templates that we use from a budget perspective to look at historical trends. We look at 3 to 5 year history of what we're doing in each one of our costs, as well as our revenues, to be able to see, is that achievable, or is that an area that we could potentially look at reducing our expenses on. We'll look at also making sure that our employee shell has all the appropriate cost and that it's aligned out to each individual department. And so that's just one thing that we'll be doing, and then working with the department heads and managers to make sure that we're all comfortable with where we're going, and we anticipate having that ready for you before that August board meeting. So this is just the tentative to set that limit and to meet that statutory requirement of a budget for fiscal year 2025-26. Okay. So that is, I'll get started in here and we'll kind of walk through what we'll talk about today. So the first step the objectives of today, we'll go through the budget schedule and talk about where we're at in that process. We'll look at our overview of our expenditures, looking at our overview of revenues, and then also have any discussion the council or questions that they might have, we'll do our best to answer. Looking at the schedule here, so we're kind of smack dab in the middle with our process right now, with our tentative budget hearing going on today, July 10th, with a final adoption of August 7th. So that's just one block, but as I mentioned, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that block, with working with our department managers and really trying to right-size the organization to be able, or from an expenses perspective, to really be able to start funding more to fund financial reserves, and really setting the stage for the town to have really strong financial progressions in the future. So, and one of the things that we'll be looking at too is a capital plan that we look at. Typically, we look at a 10-year capital plan so that we're able to look at, we can plan today for what we might need in that future. And then, so we'll move forward. We'll have that final adoption budget hearing on August 7th, and then we will be submitting to the state auditor's office. Moving into our expenses, so first off is looking at our personnel expenditures. We try to look at this on a holistic perspective as well as into the individual departments. So real quick on what we're seeing in the budget for fiscal year 25-26, there is no COLA or merit increase for this fiscal year. The employee counts are 53 in the general, 11 in the public works. Her fund, we have 3 in our advertising promotions, and then 3 in our solid waste, excuse me. One of the things though that I did want to mention in this is around our benefits. So we have 3 main things in our benefits. There's lots of other things too with our taxes and things like that, but really trying to focus on some of the big drivers or major drivers that we have on our cost. Looking at our PSPRS rate, so that is our personnel retirement for our public safety. That rate is actually flat year over year at the 19.29 for tier 1 and 2, and then about 16.35 for tier 3. Our ASRS decreased by about 0.27. That's a statewide retirement program, and that decreased the budget expenses budget to budget about $9,000. And then the big one that we have here is our health insurance increased costs were about 8%. So that's a pretty significant jump for next budget year, and that's about 113% increase in cost. Moving into our departmental expenditures, looking at this, so this is just our general fund. And you can see here on the left hand of this side of the screen is really about what's going on and what's departments are changing, and then the right side of it is just a graphical picture of what is changing, ups and downs. So this is very high level. As we walk through this, we'll kind of talk about some big drivers that are causing these ups or downs in each department. So just in general, the general fund expenditures are decreasing. This is from budget to budget. So what we're looking at here is our fiscal year 24-25 budget compared to what we're saying right now for our fiscal year 25-26 budget. So right now, our general fund has a decrease in of expenditures of 170,000, which is about 2% of the change in our budget of 2024-25. I'm going to go more in line with how the financials are set up. So it's going to be more like how the graph is on versus the departmental changes that are on the screen. So we'll go through those departments. But town council is decreasing by about 11,000 or 17%. And that's really driven based off of lower training and community relations costs. Our town manager is a decrease of 22,000 or 10%, and that's decreases in our wages and benefits along with training. Our town clerk is going up about 11,000 or 4%, and that is really driven based off of increase in wages benefits with those increases in the benefit cost side, as well as but offset by lower advertising and elections costs for next fiscal year. Finance, as we talked about, the savings that we have previously in our earlier board council agenda item. Finance is decreasing by about 82,000, which is about 16%, and that's driven based off of the lower wages and benefit costs, and then offset by an additional cost for the professional fees. Community development is a decrease of about $58,000, which is about 16% decrease, and that's driven based off of lower costs for abatements, as well as there's a facade grant, and then an increase in our professional services. The magistrate is holding flat from budget to budget. Police did see an increase of about $22,000 or 0.7%, and that's really driven based off of an increase in supplies and contract services. General services is going up $277,000 or 27%. That's a little bit misleading. Most of that's driven based off of a contingency line that we have placed in the budget that we carried over. That's really driving that increase. Our library is pretty flat. It's about a $500 decrease or 0.1%, and that's driven based off of lower materials and programming expenses. Our community services, are $33,000 decrease or 14%, and that's really driven based off of special events and economic development support. We also saw a decrease in our facilities costs of $239,000 or 14%. That's driven based off of lower wages and benefit costs, as well as lower repair and maintenance costs and professional fees. Our fleet maintenance is also decreasing by about $35,000 or 8%, and that's driven based off of lower maintenance costs on our vehicles, as well as a reduction in small tools and equipment. Any questions on the general fund kind of puts and takes on the expenditures? Moving into our special revenue funds, so this is an overall decrease of about $2.5 million decrease in expenses, and we'll walk through that. It's a little bit misleading on what's driving that, but you'll see very shortly on what's driving that. But it's about a 13.69% decrease in our special revenue expenditures for fiscal year 25-26. And the real big driver of that is our grants. Our grants are dropping about $2.2 million, and that's really related to our grant matching. So less needs to be made when the grants that we have in place for the budget, less is needing to be used from a matching perspective. So when we issue grants, there's sometimes that they're fully funded, sometimes they're funded at 95%, and we have to do a 5% match, and that's what's changing in year over year in our budget. We are seeing some decreases in other areas as well in our public works. Her fund is a $195,000 decrease due to lower street maintenance costs, drainage, rehabilitation, and equipment rentals. Our advertising and promotion is seeing a $57,000 decrease or 13% due to lower events and promotion costs. And then our parks are also seeing a decrease of $47,000 or 15% due to professional service costs lower in this current year. We have a decrease of $35,000 or 64% in our development impact fees just due to lower park fees. And then our acquisition and development is slightly down, is down to zero, which is a $225,000 decrease or 100% due to the lower economic development costs. Any questions on our special revenues? So this is just a graph here that shows kind of the percentage of what each one of the funds have. We've talked through what we saw in our general fund, that decrease of $170,000. We talked about our decrease in our special revenue fund. We're also seeing a decrease in our capital projects funds by about $3.5 million. And then our enterprise fund for solid waste is also decreasing slightly by about $5,000. So overall, our total expenditures across all funds are about $40 million, $40.5 million, which is a decrease of that 6.2 or 13%. The next slide really gives, and this I apologize, it's a lot easier to read on my side, but this is really just what you're going to see in the budget forms that are submitted based off of seeing each fund and then breaking down to the departments. It's just the stuff that we've talked about in the previous set of slides. It walks through what the current budget is for fiscal year 25, and then what our budgeted expenditures are right now for 25-26, and that increase or decrease. Looking at our revenues for next fiscal year, so our total general fund, we are at just over $8 million worth of revenues, which is a decrease of about $553,000 or 6%. You can see here most of that's coming from our ARPA funding. So we received some ARPA funding through our last year as well as probably previous years as well. We don't anticipate, that was one-time funds that we don't anticipate seeing this fiscal year. However, we have offset that with additional local city sales tax and Parks and Recs programs. Looking at our special revenue fund for revenue, we are at $17.6 million. That is an increase of $1 million or 1.83%. You can see here our grants are increasing. So what's happened here is we're moving more towards grants that don't need matches. And so you saw that reduction in expenditures, but we have an increase in our revenues. And then looking at our enterprise fund, total enterprise fund is $1.75 million, which is an increase of about $40,000 for next fiscal year, and that's really driven based off of fees collected. This is another similar graph looking at our percentage of how much of each one of these funds makes up our total revenues. So total all revenues across all funds were at $27.5 million, which is a decrease of about just under $600,000. And then finally, the roll-up is here. And again, I apologize, but this is the first page of the state forms that need to be submitted. And this just walks through what each one of those funds, the walk from where we are at for this fiscal year for our adjusted budget, and then what our anticipated carryover funds are for the end of the fiscal year, and then how we're going to expense those plus any revenues to give you what our balance is at the end of the year. So this is a balanced budget for fiscal year 25-26 with it'll leave about $3.3 million worth of reserves at the end of the year, of which just under $750,000 will be dedicated to the general fund. And I'd be happy to attempt to answer any questions the council may have at this time.
Any questions right now for Sarah? I just have one comment in the finance department. I'm a little bit concerned that we cut so much because I fear that Stacy may need some kind of help just to manage things because she is, doing HR, doing benefits, and I know you're going to be stepping in on doing some of those benefits, but HR has to be handled here. I'm a little bit concerned with that, and Rick and I talked about it a little bit this morning, so I'm just voicing that concern as we can continue moving forward.
Madam Mayor, that's an excellent point, and we'll definitely take a look at that. The good news here is that this does set the limit. However, we do have that contingency that we did increase if you looked at the general services to help offset some of that. If we do, as we go through our analysis and see that does need to increase, we can definitely take a look at that.
I just wanted you to be aware of my concerns.
Totally understand.
And then also in our grant funds, we've got the potential park donations. So that kind of really inflates a lot of the numbers, maybe beyond what the real thing is. So anyway, any questions, comments from the council? Okay, this is a public hearing, and so this is an opportunity for the public to speak on this issue. I've got one request. Larry McCormick, if you'd like to come up.
I believe it was at the second budget meeting that I attended that council agreed to cut back a lot of not-for-profits. They were modest asks, I thought. The one in particular I'm close to is the senior center. I'm there every Wednesday with a number of friends. So in any case, and I came when the council last served dinner, or lunch rather, and you saw how busy it was. Well, it's more of the same. We got overflow crowds, and it puts a lot of stress on Megan and other people that are associated with the community center. So in any case, I'd hope, and I'd suggest that you reconsider the funding of the not-for-profits. And I don't remember the exact number. I know the chamber escaped with like $2,000, $2,500. But the rest of the not-for-profits didn't get a dime, as I recall. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I am. So in any case, take a look at it if you could. I think Megan, for example, at the senior center, asked for $8,000. I think she'd be happy getting a couple, the way it stands now. But it is vital to our community. We have a lot of visitors that cannot afford a meal, and we provide that there. So, in any case, that's all I got for you.
Thank you for your comments, Larry. We are not insensitive to those needs, believe me. Those are very tough decisions for us to make.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I said we are not insensitive to the needs of those folks, and that was a very tough decision we had to make. So thank you for bringing that to us. Any other questions, comments? Is there any other member of the public that would like to address this afternoon? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and put it back on the council. Any questions, comments, motion? I'm open. Councilor Heisler.
I move to approve resolution number 25-1780, adopting a tentative budget, adopting the estimated amounts required to meet the public expense for the Town of Pinetop Lakeside fiscal year 2025-26, and authorizing and directing publication of statements and schedules of the tentative budget, together with notice of hearing on said budget and notice of date of final budget adoption of said budget.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Rick, for guiding us. Thank you, Stacy, for all your work. Sarah, I know you came in at the end here, but thank you for your work. I'm sure that we'll continue to get this worked out. We have no other business on our agenda this afternoon, but I would just like to thank the Fishers of Men for putting up the flags at the Jack Barker Park. That was really, it's always inspirational to me to drive by there and see those waving in the breeze. We took them down this morning, and I thank all of Matt's crew who showed up at 6 o'clock this morning, as well as Rick and some other community volunteers. So that's a really great program. I know they'll be back up for 9/11 in September. So there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.